And so the answer is, how do you circle out of that? And I think we need to retrench and refocus our diets towards deliciousness, because what is killing the environment and killing us doesn't taste very good. And that's the real tragedy. Food is such an opportunity to not just connect with the world around you, but to become a pleasure focal point for your life.
That was Dan Barber, and you're listening to The Regenerative Journey.
G'day, I'm your host Charlie Arnott, an 8th generational Australian regenerative farmer. And in this podcast series, I'll be diving deep and exploring my guests' unique perspectives on the world so you can apply their experience and knowledge to cultivate your own transition to a more regenerative way of life.
Welcome to The Regenerative Journey with your host, Charlie Arnott.
G'day, welcome to The Regenerative Journey and welcome to this episode with Chef Dan Barber. I became aware of Dan and his wonderful chefing activities a few years ago when he was in, I think it was season 1 of Chef's Table. I think it was a Netflix show. And it was an absolute honour to finally be able to catch up with Dan at Stone Barns. This is about an hour north of New York. It's a farm that he's involved in there, very much at the forefront of heirloom plant varieties, usage in his restaurants. He's an author. He's an educator. He is totally across the whole, food production, animal production in a very regenerative way, in a very sustainable way. Hats off to his team who managed to fit, some rando Australian podcaster into his schedule there one day back in the end, towards the end of July last year, 2024, when we were over in the States. So thank you to his team for organising that. We had 30, 40 minutes. He was very generous with his time, given how I know how busy he is. And also a big shout out to Joost Bakker, who is a mate of Dan's. Somehow I connected that they knew each other, and Dan did not hesitate at all to, again, free up some time to talk to some random Australian, all because of Joost and his friendship, and very much appreciate you, Joost, for what you did for me and what you're doing for the world. Your expansive involvement in so many different things, sustainable house and architecture and engineering, house materials, building materials, your chefing, your creativity, just fantastic. And Joost, thank you very much. I'll be catching up with you hopefully at some stage to capture your life story as well. Back to Dan, wonderful setting in the garden there at the cafeteria garden, and loved every minute of it. I was a bit nervous going into this one, given Dan's notoriety and the fact that he probably takes, I don't know how many interviews a week, how many tens of thousands he's done in his lifetime over many years, and hopefully my answers prompted, kept him interested. It certainly prompted some wonderful answers. So I hope you all enjoy this episode of Regenerative Journey as much as I did recording it with Chef Dan Barber. So we're on. Dan Barber, welcome to the Regenerative Journey.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Nice to have you here.
Well, no, nicer to have you here. And welcome to your cafeteria garden. What do you call this little lovely space?
I like it. Cafeteria garden.
Is there an official name?
The dooryard garden is official.
The dooryard.
I like cafeteria garden.
Well, and we're sitting in, I'll get you to briefly explain sort of the setup where we are, but this used to be, I'm looking at those little holders there, this looks like it was a stable of some sort, or was it hay? Was it hay or horses?
The horses, yeah.
It's incredible. Dan, as I was explaining before, this is about your regenerative journey. At some point, and I know you've got limited time, we'll get back to day one. Where did little Dan Barber drop on the ground? But where are we now? Tell me, if you will, what it means to be a practitioner of culinary delights, to have his own slice of nature to actually participate in and have a living, breathing laboratory as you do. I mean, how important to a chef, a craftsman, is it to be in touch with this?
I just want to be clear that this is not my farm.
But you have access to.
Well,
You're responsible for.
hello, sir.
This is Lordy. This is Dan.
How are you,
This
man?
is Lordy.
Nice to meet you.
He's my security.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's just going to suss you out for a few
I
minutes.
love it.
Yeah,
no worries.
And here comes Angelica.
We're meeting the family.
Dan, this is Angelica.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
I told you we keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Sorry.
No worries. No worries.
Pardon, but I need to take you.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're never going to work.
Okay.
No, that's okay. Hey, can you go with Mum? Can you go with Mum? You can stay here, but you just got to be a bit quiet. Okay. Thanks, mate. Sorry for that little disturbance.
No way. No
Tell
problem.
me.
This happens with my kids all the time. Although
how
they're
old-
usually running away from me than towards me.
How old are your children?
I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
6.5, 13 over there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, similar.
Okay, wow.
Tell me, yeah. So you're in nature, you're in a beautiful environment, as green as my eyes are dazzled by the greenery.
Yeah.
Being from Australia.
We just had a rainstorm, so that's the...
Yesterday?
Everything's popping, yeah.
Everything seems to rain at the same time here. We were in Georgia.
Oh, yeah?
Will Harris.
Yeah.
couple of days
were you
ago.
there? Okay.
And then we had a couple of days of Will did an interview there. Joel Saladin,
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Here, everything seems to rain at the same time.
Okay, good. You're
They all got rain.
bringing the rains, man.
Well, that's what they said. I wish they could just rain in summer in Australia. I wish I had the
I
same
was going
skill.
to say, you could take some of that back to Australia. It'd be good.
Now, we better start talking about you. Access, food, farming. Tell me. Does it make you... Does it blow your hair back?
Well, look, I'm very fortunate to have this farm-to-table ideal. Actually, I have a table in the middle of a farm, so I'm really have a skin in this game. And yeah, it's a great honor. I mean, I'm the most privileged chef in the world. This direct access to food being grown in the right way, and being part of the process. You know, we tend to think of chefs and people who eat as the end of the food chain, when in fact, I think involving us in the food chain as part of a linked chain is the way to think about the food system for the future, because we need people who care about food. Chefs in particular curate flavors and therefore nutrition, because the only way that you can advocate for the right kind of food system is to have people who are involved and in the know. And this kind of connection to the world around us and how food is produced allows that conversation to be at the forefront. I think the food always tastes better.
Is the love factor, the connection factor?
Well, I think we're hardwired to want to know where our food comes from. It wasn't that long ago we were rooting around for what was delicious, what was poisonous, what
wouldn't kill us.
Yeah, so that's still in us. And so I think there's a part of people come here and just feel relaxed because they're surrounded by agriculture and nature and beauty. And, that tends to increase the appetite and allow you to taste things you otherwise wouldn't taste.
But it's also you as a chef, and especially here, it's quite a responsibility, isn't it? Because you are the connection between, it's a bit of a cliche, the farm and the plate, the paddock to plate, however you want to term that. But like you are the link. I've always said that you guys turn it up to 11. Because we can grow, as farmers, we can grow nutritiously dense food in an environment. We're improving environments at the same time, but that kind of doesn't cut it unless people like you turn it up to 11 and present it and love it.
Well, we have the opportunity to make people feel, and in a world that is increasingly acidic, is increasingly fraught, is increasingly isolating, the ability to make you connect with the world around you through deliciousness, through food, is very powerful.
Can we get back to day one, Dan Barber?
I like to get to the place where we're not just getting people to feel, but getting people to think, because it's also, a dinner or a plate of food can not just connect you to the world around you, but can get you to jumpstart a series of questions and curiosity and something that you want to value and take the time and the resources to replicate outside of here.
So as an eater who's travelled from New York, had a feed here, and no doubt they would think they'd be blown away by all the senses. What would be the next step for them in terms of that thinking and how they execute on their experience, ideally from your point
Well,
of view?
they'd go directly to a farmer, That's the ticket. Get away from the supermarket, get to the farmer, because that's the direct connection, and that's the same experience you're having here. So it can be replicated at home.
Let's get to... Can you stop interrupting me when I'm asking questions? Dan, day one, where'd you land on the Earth? How was that? Was it a soft landing?
Where,
Day one.
day one here?
1 day old. No.
Oh.
We'll go back to the beginning. Your regenerative journey started, as a...
Well, I grew up on my... I think my understanding of these kinds of issues came from working at Blue Hill Farm, which is a dairy farm in Western Massachusetts that my grandmother started 50 years ago. So I was, 80 years ago. So I was working the farm in the summers, and I think that inculcated a sense of the possibilities around agriculture and food production.
So you were living not on the
Well, I
farm?
grew up in the city, but I spent my summers working the farm.
You were baited.
Yeah.
Baited, yeah. And the dairy, was it a commercial dairy, conventional dairy, would you say? Or were they doing some pretty cool things?
It was a dairy when my grandmother took it over, and she actually stopped it from being dairy, and she grazed beef cattle. And then my brother and I returned it to dairy 20 years ago when we opened Stone Barns. So we didn't have dairy here. Mm-hmm. So it was an opportunity to fulfill the dairy needs of the restaurant.
And did you have responsibilities there? Was the farm? I'm drilling down on that a bit because I grew up on our farm, and I'm 8th generational farmer in Australia, and whatever else before that. But I kind of appreciate the impact that nature would have on anyone growing up on a farm. Did you have responsibility? Was it just a playground? Was there any appreciation?
No, it was a very serious farm. I mean, it was, we were moving cattle and haying for the winter. Working. Oh, yeah. Man. Yeah, it was great. Oh, it was very serious. It's a 150 acres of pasture. So it's a big, for us, big operation just for the summer.
Big deal.
Yeah.
And schooling, did you sort of head towards subjects that were agricultural, or that was just what you did in the holidays, and were you going to be a doctor, or what were you going to do when you were in school? Or was food always your bag?
No, I didn't know what in college I cooked a bit because I was earning a little extra money, and I had a friend who was interested in food, and so we did it sort of on the side. I was thinking about becoming a writer, actually, so cooking was a way to gain some money on my way to writing.
And at what point did the cooking as a financial, kind of means turn into something like, actually, these pans are okay? Was there a moment? I ever had that. Was there a hamburger you were cooking? You went, oh my God, this is unreal.
No, unfortunately, no. I had a moment 14 years ago when a breeder walked into my kitchen, a squash breeder. Yeah.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, and I asked him, if you're such a great squash breeder, because he was quite well known, why don't you breed a squash that actually tastes good? Why do we have to add maple syrup and brown sugar to squash? And that was a moment that changed my life, and actually weirdly got me to see the power of what I'm doing in a different context, which was having a conversation not just with farmers, which a lot of people have, and is becoming more recognized and mainstream, but conversation with breeders, the architects of seeds and how seeds perform, and flavor is all in the recipe they're writing. So that was an aha moment for this, what I'm doing has reverberations not just to the farm, but really to the blueprint for how our food system works, because it really does start with seed.
And was that here? Did you say 15 years ago?
Yeah,
So you were
right here, right down, right over there.
So for the first 5 years,
Well, for the first years of here, we were very much farm to table, and what are we growing here, and also farmers in this area, how are they growing? What's their rotation? What's their soil like? I got very fixated on those criteria, because my food, and I don't know where this comes from, but my food's very simple. If you eat at my restaurant, it's like, I get very nervous when there's more than 3 ingredients on a plate. There's usually 2. So I'm very unplugged. That's not in keeping with how most chefs are these days. And because of that, I was forced to really make sure that what's on the plate sparked, had a spark to it. Was really convincing for people when they took a bite. And so I got really good at making sure that the ingredients I put on the plate were bullseyes. And to do that, you have to connect with a farmer. To do that, you got to get to know the farmer. To do that, you got to get to know what kind of soil you got. You get into a big conversation. That's what this place is and was when we opened. And it educated me as a chef. It wasn't until that conversation with the burrito that I started to think, like, for all the onion peeling that I'm doing, I haven't gone far enough. Because in many ways, when the farmer plants the seed, the cake is already baked in a lot of ways, because that genetic blueprint is in there. Now, if the farmer does a good job, the genetics are expressed, and you get incredible jaw-dropping flavor and nutrition. And to do that, you need biodiversity and you need healthy soil, and so a lot's taken care of. But if the genetics are not there, you could have the best farmer in the world, and nothing gets expressed. So genetics are a big part of this. And I didn't appreciate that until pretty late inning.
I saw recently your post about your sweet garlic.
Sweet garlic, yeah.
I think we've got some of them in our garden. Garlic and leek are just doing their thing in the garden for years and years, and then it's like, I don't even know what you are anymore.
No way.
But delicious.
That's
I
good
don't
to
know.
hear.
I could be wrong. An Australian version.
Very hard to have them cross. So if it happened, you should put a fence around it.
So was your garlic? Was that a intentional cross?
Yes, with a very famous alien breeder in Europe who had it as his project to get it done, because it was considered very difficult.
Well, I'm either bullshitting or we have just done it naturally.
Well, yeah, it's totally possible.
There's some unidentified plants there.
Okay, yeah, no, that's you might have gotten it.
Tell me, what we've sort of bypassed a few decades of your life. We might get back there. Tell me, what is you said, I mean, you're on a journey here at the moment. You've been here 20 years. What's the, not the gap, but what's the bit that you're hungry for next? Like you seem to have so much of the journey covered. What is something else? Genetics has been 15 years ago a real focus. Soil, the experience for diners. Is there something else in the puzzle?
Get it out of here. Get it out of here. The vectors have been pointing inward to improve what we do here and get it to a very high level, but the goal is to get it out. Because there's no reason that you can't democratize the deliciousness that's rooted in good farming.
So what would that look like?
Well, it would look like it becoming more accessible to more people. I don't like the word scale things, but I think spread. You spread the idea. You can't really scale great farming. It doesn't scale. What it does is spread. Ideas spread, and they recombine in different regions because there's different environments. So farm to table, a direct connection with a farmer and a chef in the Hudson Valley where we are would look quite different in the American Southwest. Climate's drier. The vegetation is different, but the concept is the same. And that's what I think we want to do. We want to become a idea that can be shared in other regions. And that already is happening. I just would like it to happen faster, because agriculture in this country, and I know a little bit about Australian agriculture, it's largely extractive, and it's denigrating and denuding environments, and it's denigrating and denuding our health. And that is not sustainable. So how we turn that around, agriculture has to play a role in that. And we have the answer. It's not technology. It's not technology. I'm not anti-technology. I just have not seen technology at play that overrules biology. Biological systems are really complex, and I don't think we have a language for those. We have a language for the tech things in agriculture and everything. We have this Steve Jobs, Bill Gates paradigms, but we struggle with inefficiencies and nature's complexity because it's not A to B.
I always say you can't fix a biological problem, whatever the problem is, with mechanics or technology.
Yeah.
It's just you got to use biology to.
Having said that, it's not Luddite, as I'm sure you would subscribe to. That garlic that you mentioned, the love child of a leek and a garlic, happened very quickly because of technology. Because of advances in computer technology and in recognizing genetic traits that have produced wonderful results. So it's not anti-technology, I'm not Luddite, but I am questioning how you use technology with agriculture, because agriculture is rooted in biology, as we said. So that is infinitely more complex, and I think infinitely more interesting, actually, if you can tap into nature's power biology. That's a power charge, and we're looking at it here.
Yeah, I mean that's abundant, isn't it? Will Harris said the other day, it's lovely what you just said, because paralleling with he said. I asked him the same question: what are you going to do now? How would you see this in the world? And he said, well, I can't. It's not about scaling; it's about just repeating.
Yeah.
It's the framework, it's the blueprint, it's the principles, and so on. So wouldn't I love to see one of these in Australia, all over the world? Dan, let's get to so many questions. Let's just fill in that little gap there from school.
I was training in restaurants. I went through a hardcore inculcation into the
formal
world
or informal?
I went to not really formal. It was more. It was working in restaurants in France. I spent a lot of time in France. Yeah. So.
Who are your any mentors or in your career that you just bow down to? And
there's so many. So many. There's a chef, Alain Ducasse, in France, that is probably the greatest chef of our generation. And he was a chef who was extremely white tablecloth, high end, but utilized local farmers and traditions and modernized them beautifully. It's fantastic depth of knowledge and intuition, and he affected me greatly. Now, there are tons. I mean, chefs. I just studied under some great chefs, and I learned from amazing chefs. And I'm taking those ideas and practicing that craft in a very limited environment. Even though we're sitting here in the middle of July in abundance, most of the year here is short growing season and difficult terrain. So navigating that and creating a recipe or a diet that is interconnected and healthy and delicious, I think, is the goal. That isn't the goal to scale that. The goal is to replicate those principles in different environments. We forget the United States is enormous, with enormous
telling me.
Yeah, with enormous geographical differences, environmental and ecological differences. Italy fits inside of New York State, and Italy has 30 different kinds of radicchio depending on what town you go to in the north. Well, it's because soil conditions were different and temperature conditions started to change, and daylight and cultural differences. Even in Little Italy, not Little Italy, New York, Italy, the country, the smallest, it's still teasing out differences depending on niches, ecological niches and cultural niches. And that is a very exciting, actually, food future. I think we've left the idea, at least in America, that you eat the same wherever you go. People don't want that anymore. You want to go to the south of the United States and eat rich Southern traditions. Well, barbecue has exploded. That's a good example of a thing that, you could export that to other areas, but it leaves behind the history and the cultural imprint. And to me, it's much less exciting than to be in situ, in place. And in the Pacific Northwest, there's a kind of ecological niche of abundance, of incredible ecological strength, and that's there. As Michigan, there's certain, it's just everywhere in our country we have the niches, and I think people, as they travel more, look for those niches. They don't look for the same thing. That's very different than when we opened Stone Barns, which is only 30 years ago. It was all about, you were ranked in like what dishes you presented in your restaurant. I mean, to be a high-end restaurant, you had to have lobster, or caviar, or foie gras. You had to have a certain kind of, and if you go back to the 1970s, God, it was even worse. You go back to the 50s, it was, you knew what you were going to order before you even went out to a restaurant.
You knew what was going to be on the menu.
Sure. It was like, and chefs were unnamed and unknown. They were drunk in the basement, living the average age of 40. It was a miserable life, and it was the maitre d' and the front of the head of the restaurant staff, the manager, the maitre d', the owner, who had a repertoire of dishes, classic dishes, that you were ranked on how well you prepared them.
And that was safe, right?
Very safe and very boring.
So tell me, what was
chefs exploded that. They broke the chains. That was the Nouvelle Cuisine chefs of the early 70s and later 70s, that said, we don't want to have our names buried, and we're artists and we're craftsmen, and we're going to take advantage of the morning market. That was a first. And they simplified food, and they were technically at the highest level, but the simplicity and the ingredients and the regionality of what they expressed was extraordinary. And it changed food forever. In this country, I'm a disciple of those Nouvelle Cuisine chefs. So I'm taking that idea a bit further because I have the luxury to do so here in this environment.
This episode of the Regenerative Journey is brought to you by Nourishing Australia, a not-for-profit on a mission to reconnect soil health with climate and human health. Join them for the Nourishing Australia Conference on Saturday, the 1st of November, happens to be my birthday, 2025, at the UTS in Sydney, or stream it live from anywhere. The day will feature leading voices exploring how healthy soils shape resilient ecosystems and communities, plus all registrants will receive recordings of the talks. Some of those presenting on the day: Walter Yaner, Stuart Andrews, Dr. Ron Ehrlich, Martin Royds, and Dr. Max Culhane, all of which have been interviewed on the Regenerative Journey in previous seasons. Get 20% off with the code CharlieArnott20 at checkout, and visit nourishingaustralia.org for details. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, The Regenerative Journey, to make sure you're listening to every episode as they're released. We very much appreciate your reviews and your ratings. There's a reputation, at least in Australia, Nouveau Cuisine was, you can guarantee it was going to be a very small serve. That was the biggest thing. It was like, oh, that's really fancy and really small, and I want my money back. You know, that was a kind of a thing back then.
That was an unfortunate phase that Nouveau Cuisine went through, and I got captured by the media. But the thing that was lost, I think, in the story of Nouveau Cuisine was these leading chefs who revolted against the dictates of tradition and wanted their name on the menu. And you got the restaurant, Paul Bocuse in France. Like, it was just craziness that you would go to a restaurant and see something unexpected, or flavor combinations that were unexpected. It seems so crazy, but it was only 50 years ago, and today, you're ranked on how differentiated you are and how specific you are to place and part. That's very exciting. I think that people are waking up to this. I don't think we'll go back to, but I don't think we'll go back to those days. I think, in fact, that drive towards differentiation and niches and taking advantage of your locality will bleed down into the culture. I think the days of mass audience for particular foods is waning. That's not to say we're not going to have hamburgers in this country. But as you can see, the explosion of even hamburgers has been localized. It's been different concepts around pizza or burgers that have become, you go to the city to get the best burger there. And they often are purchasing meat from regional, this is so interesting. It's like that, there's been a whole turning upside down of the expectations for going out to eat. And I think it's true that is impregnating itself into the everyday food culture of Americans.
My daughter, Lila, is a burger aficionado of sorts. She doesn't look like she eats a lot of burgers. She's very slim. But she has had a theory until she came over here that you only get good burgers in burger shops. But since she's been here, she's gone, oh no, I'm going to try the burger in the whatever restaurant. Yeah. And she's like just going, this is amazing. It's totally changed, deflected her whole idea about burger shops. Tell me, Dan, is there a deflection point that we are heading towards, good or bad? Do you have any insight into the future of food in, let's just stay in America for the moment, where we're heading towards, a tension event, a deflection point that's either good or bad, like in terms of the evolution of food culture and farming and
I think we're headed into an inflection point where we can't sustain a world where food and agriculture account for 35% of greenhouse gas emissions. And we can't sustain a country's health when the vast proportion of diseases are diet related. Vast proportion of deaths are diet related. We saw that so clearly during COVID, but we see it even post and pre-COVID. It's just that those two things can't last. And so the answer is, well, how do you circle out of that? And I think we need to retrench and refocus our diets towards deliciousness, because what is killing the environment and killing us doesn't taste very good. And that's the real tragedy. Food is such an opportunity to not just connect with the world around you, but to become a pleasure focal point for your life. And that opportunity, I think, as people, especially millennials, this younger generation, I have those cooks in my kitchen, and in Generation Z, man, they are dialed in, and wanting to know where the food comes from, how it was grown. That's very exciting.
Do they lift you? Like, I'm sure they're riding on your coattails. I mean, they're here and your reputation, but do you, what's the sort of, is there a bit of a two-way
There's always
street?
a two, yeah. I mean, I get some of the best cooks in the world come from all over the world to be here. So I feel the pressure to make sure that they get educated and get inspired. And that keeps me here, so I'm here a lot. And it's because of them. If I don't do that, I don't get them. And if I don't get them, I lose a huge vibrancy from my life and the quality and all of that, all the drive, the inquisitiveness, the curiousness, and the drive to learn. I mean, these kids, they're very hungry, and it's. I wasn't.
Is that one of your lunch guests coming?
No, I wasn't that way when I was that age, but it's great to see.
Don't be alarmed. There's a bee on you.
That's all right.
Now I'm distracted. Where the hell was I going with that one? Tell me about the Centre for Food and Agriculture, because when I walked in and I met Elizabeth from Communications, a lovely, lovely girl, she and helped just get us set up here. I was like, this feels like an agricultural university. It had it's quite grand. And
see, Elizabeth is a good example of that, because she came as a front of the house server, it was very clear that she's super bright, inquisitive, very talented writer and speaker and just a communicator with guests. And we work very closely with Stone Barn Center in terms of articulating the vision of what's happening here and the programs and the outreach. And she was a perfect example of the kind of people that we're lucky enough to attract and are fighting constantly to offer more if they want more than just serving in the restaurant. And there is a cohort of people who come here and are excited to go beyond the service, and people who don't see themselves in a restaurant for their careers. So we want to give them opportunities. So we created this job for her because she's so talented. But that's what I was saying in terms of the, being here and activating a kind of energy around this place is important because you get people like that.
Tell me, how do eaters and...
I didn't just say that because she can hear us.
She is over there. She's going to say, do you think she's going to come over and say, now, when Dan said this, can you just chop that out?
No, but she might come over and say, can I have a raise?
I'll back her. She's been wonderful. Actually, Elizabeth, do you mind? Can you take a photo of us like in the moment? If that's okay, yeah, just any time.
In the moment.
Oh, no, that came out, yeah. How much we got? 15, 14. Dan, how do guests and eaters and customers here interact with the Centre for Food and Agriculture? Like, what are the touch points for them to engage with what you guys are doing, and then hopefully go back and do something with it? What are they taking home?
We offer tours, programming, tastings, lectures, cooking classes to the public and to members who can become intimately involved in gardening and in growing. And we are hoping that they will take that experience and bring it back to their communities. Yeah.
And people can turn up and wander. We got here an hour early. We sort of wandered through here and through the courtyard. Can people wander through the veggie garden and or some places out of bounds?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty much a free for all.
It's a free-for-all. You can't really pick your own vegetables, but you can walk around.
I was looking at those apples there. Are they a red variety, or they just say that are still green, or are they
There's
green
both
variety?
red and green. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I didn't see any signs saying don't pick the apples.
Okay. Well.
I
For the taking.
No, hands in the air. I didn't. I wouldn't have done that. Tell me, any projects that are coming up that you're super pumped about? There might be some you can't tell us about.
Tell you anything, man.
What's next? What's the next big thing?
We've recognized that a lot of the ideas that we're generating in the kitchen, I mentioned to you, we want to get outside the four walls of a white tablecloth restaurant and get out there. And the research that we have done over 20 years on rotational crops, on cover crops, or on old dairy cows. Let me give you the example of old dairy cows. Now, Blue Hill Farm, just 75 miles from here, mama that's at the end of her life for milking, she's not giving as much milk. In America, that cow is thrown into the dog food chain or fast food burgers that your daughter probably wouldn't like. We've used the meat here starting 20 years ago. We recognized, wow, this is some of the most delicious meat. These older ladies, if you raise them right and you dry them off after they're done milking and you spend some time fattening them up, they are exquisitely delicious. And instead of throwing them away, seriously, at 60 cents a pound, which is what they go for on dairy farms, what about if we finished them right and gave them broadcasting that they deserve? We pay now for good quality dairy cow under our protocols $6.75 a pound. So it's a $6 difference per pound on a 600-pound animal. That is a huge economic lever for dairy farms. I'm saying that because we want to take that understanding that we have, that we keep here, and get it out. So we're starting a new program on research and development within Stone Barns. It's a joint venture between Stone Barns Center, the non-for-profit, and Blue Hill. And it's going to be an opportunity for us to R&D ideas that are equitable for the farmer, that the farmers have a stake, and to get those ideas out into the world faster and more democratically than in sitting at a table at Blue Hill. So that's the next initiative. We're going to launch that in the fall.
Yeah, cool. Would that include, because in the dairy industry, the conventional ones at least, there's a general criticism often of the male calves are either got rid of because they're obviously can't make milk, but in some people in Australia are actually going, well, no, there's a lot of value in these. There are qualities there that we're happy to explore, and so they'll keep them on as a steer, not necessarily to a bullock. Is that another thing? Like what happens to the males at the dairy farm at the moment in terms of like their life?
What happens to the males?
Yeah, to the males.
Well,
yeah.
that's the other side of the equation. I mean, the veal calves are right now on many dairy farms. If they can get someone to pick it up, a trucker to pick it up. On larger dairy farms, they have a lot of male calves at once, and so they can ship them off. For veal, we don't eat a lot of veal in this country.
Is that right?
No, we produce males at 50% clip at every dairy farm. Everyone who's born is 50% male. So there's a whole deep, dark secret about what happens to those males. Most of them are just killed and composted right after they're born. So the second part of our project is to make a big push for veal calves and make veal part of a responsible diet. It's been maligned as torturing baby cows, but man, that was raising them in the wrong way. That was chained and having them not move and become anemic. We've discovered that if veal calves move around and oxygenate the muscles and have a very happy life, or a young life, they have a happy life, but one bad day. They are extraordinarily delicious. So that's the other side of the equation. So if you're going to help dairies thrive, you're going to help on the back end when you call out a lady and give value to the farmer and honor that meat because it's extraordinary. And on the other side, the males that are born, we're going to be broadcasting the amazing flavor and protein potential of veal calves.
Well, you're helping find a solution to a problem.
Right. Yes.
Which is kind of, not just turning things up to 11, but going, no, we can actually, partner, as you say, partner on these problems.
Right. And do it on a scale that's bigger than just 45 diners a night.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to get the ideas out. I don't want to we're tired of keeping everything to ourselves. So this company that we're launching is to do that, is to get it out.
If you were to write another chapter of The Third Plate, which came out in 2014, has people asked you this question before?
Not really.
What would you say?
I think I wrote the next chapter. It was starting the seed company. I started a seed company in 2018 because I ended the book with breeders because I kept dialing down, peeling the onion, and I got past the farmers to the breeders. I just got introduced to a world that I found so fascinating. These characters who are writing the recipe, as I said, for the future of food. So I started a seed company instead of writing another chapter, which was to advertise their work. And we started a seed company based on really just delicious vegetables that the big food chain was rejecting. It's called Row 7, and I hope it gets to Australia soon.
Have you been to Australia?
Oh, yeah. I love Australia. I did a book tour in Australia, man.
When the
book came out.
Yeah,
I love Australia. I was there a couple times.
Have you got any good buddies over there that you kind of, check in on or have anything to do with?
Well, Juiced, right? He's our buddy. He's our...
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joost, for your lovely connection. No, I know, Boost,
Joost, I'm sorry. I've been mispronouncing your name for 15 years, man.
But he's too polite to say, hey, mate.
Yeah, no,
wrong.
I know. Right. That guy is angelic, man. I think he's touched
cool.
by God, that guy. That's beautiful.
Don't pump his tyres up.
Yeah, you're right. Keep him level.
But he's very clever with his zero waste stuff, his construction, the sustainable materials. I actually don't know, and he's a florist. I don't actually know how he does it all.
I know.
He's a freak.
Beautiful family, too.
So when are you coming back?
Well, I'm trying to put together a book here for about seeds, so maybe I'll be back when that thing comes out. Or before. I'd love to come before.
Well, you're most welcome. Not that I'm the person who lets people in or out of Australia, but if you do come back, you are most welcome to.
Where's your farm?
So we're about 3.5 hours southwest of Sydney.
Okay.
So Canberra.
Yeah.
No one knows about Canberra.
Yeah,
it's a
I've heard.
nation's capital.
Yeah, sure.
Everyone's heard of it. Well, not me. We're an hour and a half north of there, and we have, as I was saying before, sheep, cattle, pigs, free ranging. I got to sort that out. Actually, I got some great tips from Joel Sullivan the other day about how to keep pigs in. They're in my garden.
How to what?
How to keep pigs in one space. So if you come down to Australia, you're most welcome to join us.
I don't know.
there.
Why do you want to keep pigs in one space? I mean, the more they forage, the better tasting.
Well, no, actually, good point. What I need to do is secure our garden. Because they come in the garden and just trash the shit out of everything.
I bet.
Tell me, Dan, conscious of time, this is where you're clearly a pretty humble sort of guy anyway, but if
my dad used to say I was humble, and then he added, but you have a lot to be humble about. Okay. All right.
Okay, with that in mind, what do you think your genius is?
Oh, I don't have a genius, man. I'm in search of genius. And maybe that's the genius, is that I'm in search of I'm constantly just really curious. But look, I'm in an environment where how could you not be curious? But there are people who I have been surrounded by. Joel Salatin's one of them, who just are treasures of information and know-how. And I think I'm pretty dogged about learning from them. And if there's any superpower that's attached to that, it's probably there.
Do you find that I'll use the term regenerative agriculture, sustainable ag, whatever you want to call it, that the tribe of those kind of people like your Joels and your Wills and others, they're a particular type of person? I'm not saying they're better or worse than conventional farmers or whatever, but does a regenerative farmer, do you feel, whether they're veggies or animals, require particular things to just challenge the status quo? Have you sensed in them a particular character trait that is a bit unique?
In regenerative farmers?
Yeah. Compared to conventional. Again, not putting anyone on top or below anyone else.
Well, I would put them on top. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I mean, I think people who are thinking organically are forced into making some very complex decisions that are genius and specific to place. And yeah, I put them above the conventional guys. The conventional farming, for the most part, pretty easy, because when you're confronting problems, you can spray the problem away. You can't do that in an organic environment. So I'm pretty enamored with truly organic practices. When I say truly, I mean they go way beyond what the level of definition of organic is, and that's deep rooted, man, and that's biological. That's knowing your biology and being attuned to it, and I find it staggering genius in that. So yeah, no, I would rank them way above the conventional guys, if you ask me.
Thank you. Tell me, trying to squeeze one more question in. What is any philosophy? Because I read somewhere, that you're a philosopher, a philosopher chef. You've been termed. You probably knew that. Is there anything? Is there any sort of the latest kind of angle, philosophical angle you've taken? You've read a book and gone, holy shit, that's cool, or something this is priming you for the next question, which would be my last one. Is there some little epiphany you've had that's just like, oh shit?
Over the last couple years, the epiphanies have been endless over seed possibilities around seed. And just continuing to talk to different breeders, whether it's fruit breeders or vegetable breeders or grain breeders, like what the potential is if we really have a conversation with breeders. I think it's just a world-changing idea. So those epiphanies keep coming because I keep meeting different and interesting breeders.
Animals too, like in terms of breeds.
I don't mean the animal kingdom is not something that I'm delving into with breeding, but I'm fascinated by it just because of the work I do here. What pigs really do taste the best on pasture, and what is that hybrid vigor between two parent lines you bring together and you get this like unbelievable flavor and marbling, that is the gift. I don't know, it's a gift from God. It's like Jesus. It's and so but that's all genetics. Mm-hmm. It's not all genetics. Sorry, the farmer's in there, big time. But man, the genetics are fascinating. So that's what I consider epiphany is the idea that there's just a whole life of knowledge to learn, and I want to get there.
Last one.
Last question.
Last
this is
question.
The grim, the
No,
grim
it's
reaper.
okay. No, he comes. He warned me about you. No, he didn't.
I did.
So Dan, we've got a big. We can put a billboard, two-sided billboard, next to a highway somewhere, as busy a highway as you want.
Yeah.
You can put a quote, a word, a phrase, a question on both sides. You can put them on both sides, but that's wasting a side. Is there a quote or a little?
You can put them on both sides, meaning someone's passing by, so they're looking at it, but you don't want them to look back because.
Well, no, they can see if they're going north. They can see one quote. If they're coming south, they see another one.
Oh.
I'm just saying, don't put the same on both sides. I mean, you can if you want. If you really want to emphasise it.
Oh, I would say,
if you got two,
I would do the same thing on both sides. If you're headed in a direction and you're deep into your journey, but you've recognized that you're going on the wrong path, it's not too late to turn around.
That's very cool.
I would say that on both ends.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that to farmers, I'd say it to chefs, I'd say it to anybody who's in the business of producing food, that we tend to think that we have a food system or a structure of the way we work that's fixated and inconcrete and fossilized and impossible to disrupt and turn on its head. And my experience, and I think the experience of the last 50 years of agriculture and food, says otherwise. That no matter how far you've gone on a journey, you can disrupt it quickly. You can get off, you can get on and exit and turn around. And that's much better than just staying the course and trying to tinker with your journey to make it a little bit better. And that's a lot of what sustainable agriculture is. We're on this fucking journey where sustainability has become, let's just do this less bad. Less chemicals, less water use, less soil degradation. I use 70% less chemicals, but that's not what's needed right now. And I don't want to applaud that because it gives an excuse for tinkering around the edges of a really broken system. And that's what I would say on the highway, man. There is always time to make bold, life-changing, directional changes. And to think otherwise is to be regretful about it later in life.
If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love your support by subscribing, rating and reviewing The Regenerative Journey on your favourite podcast platform. You help us reach more people and keep the show thriving for seasons to come. Each time you listen, you're choosing to make a positive shift in your own world. And if an episode speaks to you, please pass it on to friends, family or communities who might be inspired too. For more details and episodes, visit www.charliearnott.com.au.